Hey everybody, it's Jason Emerson. I'm here with my partner in crime, I guess, Cole Koenig.
Hi.
And we are Bad Guy Labs, the show that is proudly brought to you in low quality and low definition.
It's what we do. I enjoy it.
So this week, right off the top, I thought I would clarify something I said about hookers last week. I was joking around about I was joking around about liking the type of guy I am. Is I like beer and hookers and mind-altering substances, and that was just goofing around there. So don't take that seriously. I certainly have an appreciation for hookers and what they do, but I've never actually had to pay for sex in my life with money. And
well, and we don't necessarily mean had to. You could do it if you wanted to.
Yeah. So that is the type of guy I am. I do like all that stuff, but don't get the idea that I just head around to all the whore houses in town and go to work or let them go to work.
Right, like a civilized person, you use Craigslist.
Yeah, what am I, an animal? So I was sort of channeling a vibe. That's something you can pretty much expect in the future is I'm going to be sort of channeling a lot of vibes. So when I say, I'm the type of guy that likes hookers, don't take that too literally. It can just mean something more metaphorical. As far as mind-altering substances go, not a problem there.
No, not at all.
So I hope that clears everything up for anybody that was wondering.
Yeah, don't worry about those things. So, oh man, I am back from feeling under the weather slightly this weekend. So I'm glad. I hope my voice isn't too fucked up for anybody out there, or anything like that doesn't sound shitty because I'm feeling, it's like that stage you get to in a cold where you sound worse than you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am. So if people are picking up on anything different in my voice, it's because my wife brought home a disease from her workplace and gave it to me too, inevitably, as wives do. And so my Labor Day weekend was spent at home, alternating between HGTV and Hoarders. That's what I did. We tried to watch Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. Couldn't do it. Just fucking had to. It was pain.
I just heard about that, and I'm looking forward to hating it. So, it's one of those areas where
I guarantee you will.
I don't look forward to watching it, but then, once I'm in there, it's sort of it's almost easy to watch it once you're, I guess, desensitized to the horror of it's one of the toddlers in tiaras, right?
Yeah.
Like the disgustingness of the moms and the way they sort of force their kids into that shit. And the desensitization comes relatively quickly, sort of like when you're a surgeon in a war, or if you have a series of people in a pit in your basement. I mean, the first few are hard, but then I've said too much.
You're thinking about the Human Centipede, the second sequence, or whatever that fucking movie is called. The sequel to the Human Centipede.
Actually, well, that's a great example as well. But I was thinking about Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
I know you were.
With his fake arm cast in his van, like, hey, can you help me get this into my van? Like, that's a warning.
I kind of don't know how nobody ever thought that wasn't a warning, that a guy with his arm in a cast trying to load a couch into something. Like, so the guy, even if the guy's not menacing, he's at least retarded. So I would just be like, hey man, no, I've got diarrhea, I gotta go. I would think of something that I needed to say.
Blaming the victim. I knew it.
Yeah.
Guilty.
I'm an asshole. I'm an asshole.
We'll touch on victim blaming here and there. Perhaps.
Yeah, because I'm not blaming the victim. I'm just trying to be. I'm just trying to be a good observer of stupidity.
Guilty, sir. Guilty, I say. That woman that walked through Queens at 3 a.m. in a bikini had every right to do that.
She did. And I support that in a weird sort of way. Oh, fudge.
So, randomly, just for all you listeners out there, we were thinking of a fun little game we could all play with no real time limit. We'll just keep coming up with these as we feel like it. So
Hide the sausage?
Well, you're actually kind of closer than you think. Sexual euphemisms. So we all know there are real sexual euphemisms like the dirty Sanchez, or the donkey punch, or the angry pirate, or the rusty trombone. But
the Cleveland steamer.
Oh yeah, and the glass bottom boat.
Yeah,
you just go on and on.
Urban Dictionary All-Stars is what we're talking about here. Things that you know, and if you don't, look them up.
So I was thinking it would be a fun game to see what kind of fake sexual euphemisms we could come up with. So if you think of any, write them in, and maybe we'll mention them here if they're funny and you're not a shithead and you don't suck a bag of donkey dicks.
Or even better, the ones that we think of, get them into Urban Dictionary somehow.
Good. Yeah, that's a good call.
I would love that. I would love to see the Calgary clam bake show up in Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, or John Holmes' Revenge. Or even though this one has already been taken for something innocent, I just still think the Canadian tuxedo sounds dirty. I gave her the old Canadian tuxedo.
Or maybe a slight variation of the Canadian bow tie.
Yes.
I don't know what that would be. I've heard of a Sicilian bow tie, but that's probably not as erotic as in the sense of most people probably wouldn't find it erotic. I certainly don't, but no judging.
I don't know what that is, and don't tell me because I don't want to know. But
all right, I'll let you.
I'll figure it out.
I'll let you Google it later.
Or I'll let my mind wander with it for a while. It sounds like what I'm picturing would be a variation of the Dirty Sanchez, called the Dirty Bow Tie. Or if you're going more cash, perhaps like the Dirty Bolo Tie. It would go well with the Canadian tuxedo.
I mean, if you're going up north for a formal event, keep all these things in mind. That's basically the gist of what we're saying here.
So a few other ones that we came up with were the Haitian hat trick, the Saskatchewan shocker, the Costa Rican crossover, the Eskimo icicle vanish, the backward sausage casing for some reason, the Norwegian nympho pile, the Greenland ice melter, and the Georgia G tickler, which I think would also be a great porno name.
Let me see. Aim these at me again. I can't see them exactly. Okay. See, for whatever reason, I want to turn Haitian hat trick into Haitian hat maker.
Not a bad idea. That sounds pretty good.
I don't know why.
We can have more than one H one. More than one Haitian one, too. Or you can change it to Hawaiian. I like alliteration a lot, but we don't have to use alliteration.
Well, alliteration works. Definitely. And I also like picking sort of, if we're going to give them, associate with them with the geography, I like picking like not prominent nations, you know, the Mongolian man grabber, something like that.
Yeah, well, the more sort of exotic the nation, I think, is where you're going with this. The better the name for some reason. I guess because sexual euphemisms are exotic. It doesn't have to be a place, though. I had places in mind for most of these, except for John Holmes' Revenge and the backward sausage casing. And
I do enjoy the John Holmes' Revenge because it's got a good vagueness about it as to what John Holmes' Revenge might be.
Yeah.
It could be one of the weirdest erotic horror movies ever made. The Curse of John Holmes' Ghost.
In a world where porn stars come back from the dead. Then you'd have to have the sound of the record scratch
Oh yeah.
as the music stops, and then some douchey person says a line, and then the music resumes. These things practically write themselves.
Oh yeah.
Um,
It's good shit.
so if you don't have a place as the first word in these things, I would suggest an adjective. Sort of like the dirty Sanchez or the rusty trombone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Angry pirate. And then the donkey punch
The
is...
slippery tuba.
Oh, that sounds interesting. That sounds like something that might happen at a zoo.
Probably does.
Or at a symphony orchestra, or, you know, I guess.
A bandstand, whatever. At the Pops.
Yeah. Nice, you're on a blanket on a lawn in the summer listening to the Pops.
Exactly. And then, oops, family event is ruined by a slippery tuba.
The donkey punch is yet another sort of variation. It's not an adjective and it's not a place. It's a noun, in this case, an animal, and then a verb. So, if you can't think of a specific one, I'm also curious about the different ways of putting these together. So you can start with some kind of noun or some kind of adjective, and then end with a verb or a noun. But you can't start with a noun and end with a noun.
So we're getting slightly academic.
That's all right.
Looking at the structure of sexual euphemism.
I'm very okay with that. When it comes to talking about, the Georgia G tickler, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I think breaking that down is, I think that's why we're here. Now, we worry a lot about being too academic, putting a little bit too much of that component of our lives into the show.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what we should do when it comes to...
Hey, it's cool with me.
...talking about the Norwegian nymphopile.
Norwegian nickel slot.
Or if you want to modernize
I'm just letting this shit flow. That's I don't know.
The old Cincinnati credit card swipe. But yeah, I think it's
you
fine
go too far, sir. You go too far.
How dare I? I think it's fine to analyze. That's what we're here for. We're here to do experiments and free thought, as we say all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I think analyzing sexual euphemisms and their structure, fake or real, I think that's fair game for us.
Totally. And I fully endorse thought experiments because they are the cheapest form of experimentation that I can think of.
I would agree with that.
Even sexual experimentation isn't that cheap.
No, yeah.
You at least got to buy a couple drinks.
Yeah, or, find a decent hooker. Not that I know anything about
Not that we know anymore.
I'm not saying I wouldn't. I'm just saying I never had to. That's all. Pay money for sex. Just never had to.
I mean, a couple gallons of fertilizer, maybe. I was trying to think of something off the wall that you would use in trade. What people expect for swapsies. I don't know. People are strange.
There's probably a rule for that with a number after it. Like Rule 34.
So this is Rule 35.
I don't know. I've heard that there are other rules out there with other numbers, so we don't want to be treading on the turf of Rule 35 if there's already another Rule 35. We'll have to check into that, and we'll get back to everybody someday long from now.
I suspect that's bullshit, though, because I always assumed that Rule 34 was arbitrary.
I saw a Rule 33 on the internet, and it was relating to some other thing that, was also leet speak stuff.
Ah.
And I don't know whether it was because somebody compiled a list of rules or whether Rule 34 was, as you say, arbitrary, and then people sort of retrofitted other rules into the list.
Yeah, I guess that's hard to say. I don't know.
But, either way, that could be a rule. So, but yeah, we'd be curious from time to time to... I'll think up more of these myself. Fake sexual euphemisms. Think them up. Think up their structure. or any other weird, crazy crap you people think of, write it into us, badguylabschannel@gmail.com.
Take a picture of yourself doing one of them.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
that could be interesting.
You know?
We promise that we will probably not post it on our Facebook page or our Twitter account.
We do not want to get bullied. I'm not interested in that.
And don't forget, don't confuse us with those other Bad Guy Labs guys. They have Bad Guy Labs in their name, and they have a Bad Guy Labs-ish sounding email account and blog. So don't confuse us with those guys.
Definitely not.
Maybe we should have those guys on the show someday if they ever want to come on. That'd be interesting.
Based on their blog, I don't think they'd know what the fuck we were up to, or they may be totally disinterested. I have no clue.
It'd be weird to find out someday. Maybe I'll send them an email, and I'll see what they're about, and they sound similar to us in some ways. So maybe I predict they will either love the idea or never let us speak to them again.
It'd be interesting to find out.
But regardless, as there are many different Acme corporations in the world, there is more than one Bad Guy Labs.
So beware.
Yes. So don't confuse one for the other. Maybe I'll have to work out a deal with them. Like if somebody sends email to them that's for us, they won't just delete it immediately.
Well, either that or I'll just have to try to guess their password. Oh, I can do it. Trust me.
Well, if they're smart like me, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's unbreakable.
That is unbreakable.
So,
or just start with fuck, fucker, fuck you. You'd be surprised how many people would make that their password.
Actually, I'm not surprised, and I've encountered people with that very thing you're talking about. So,
well, there you go.
That made it a rule for me never to do that when I sort of started seeing the rate at which this happens.
Rule 41.
Sure.
Fuck related passwords.
I'm sitting here nodding my head, making great radio.
Oh, well, it's a work in progress.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to go over from a couple different episodes now is my use of the word faggoty. So it's all in fun. Doesn't mean I want to hurt anybody. And if somebody didn't want me to use it around them, I probably wouldn't, I guess. Although then there's that whole area of questions of, can we not watch Blazing Saddles now? Because Slim Pickens talks about Kansas City faggots. Blazing Saddles is an awesome movie. I don't want to use the argument from authority here to sort of bolster my position, but I think in this case, at least bringing up these things as an example is relevant. So I used faggoty to describe Robin in a couple different instances from Batman. And what we mean by that is not a gay person, but a likely prissy and annoying person, and probably a lot of other negative labels that have nothing to do with sexual orientation. So, for example, there are gay guys who are, great to be around, and they're nice, and they don't sort of grate on you over the day. Those guys are just people. Yeah. And then there are faggoty people who may actually not be gay. They may, maybe straight or whatever. And it has nothing to do with being gay. It has to do with being faggoty. So
yeah, I mean, it's a weird word to me. Very unlike some of the other touchy words that we've talked about in the past, because it's a word where I don't know where all the assholes are who are actually calling, because that's not how I grew up using the word. I didn't grow up using the word gay or faggot to describe someone who was a man and liked other men in a romantic and sexual capacity. Mm-hmm. You used it for You used it towards people who, like you said, were being annoying, like, I don't know, just sort of shitting on things. I can't think of all the different of all the different things right off the top of my head that, like, I don't know, that combine into it. But I just want to know who the assholes are who are ruining it, and actually being like, oh, you're a dude who likes dudes, you're a fucking faggot. And it's like, no, man, you're ruining this.
Yeah.
You're really ruining this. That guy's fine.
Yeah.
Leave him alone. You know.
Yeah, it's sort of describing, I guess, selfish people to some extent. That has nothing to do with, and that's how language evolves. Like
selfish, a little narcissistic.
Yeah, narcissistic. That's a good label to add to this. People who are sort of want the center of attention to be on them all the time, that sort of thing. The me types. Those are sort of and flamboyant, regardless of who you like to fuck. That's why I sort of think of Robin that way. And as let's face it, the first Batman from the TV show.
Yeah.
After the comic books, same kind of. Although it's not just. Robin wasn't really a selfish asshole, but he had some of those qualities, and I think having some of those. I don't know. He wore that weird outfit, and it's the prissy end of it. See, there are different components in maybe like a diagram that you could sort of brainstorm down with bubbles and lines connecting, and faggoty is in the center, and then there's all these bubbles sort of outside of that bubble, and some of them apply to in different cases. So in Robin's case, it would be the prissy, flamboyant kind of I don't know, wussy-ish qualities, I guess. Whereas in other people, they may not be flamboyant. They might just be the selfish, center of attention types, the narcissists. And so, either or would apply. So if anybody out there was confused, I hope that clears it up. I'm going to keep using the word. I'm not going to abuse it. My hope is to be free and to experiment with language and try things and make people understand that you shouldn't take everything literally. We've already covered literal douchiness. I don't want to hurt anybody, but at the same time, if you're hurt because of your own misunderstanding about how language works, then that's your problem. And I'll try to work with you on that, but it depends on how far you want to push it. Like, I will concede a little bit to people, but how far am I supposed to go? That's the question. And I'll make little concessions here and there if it quickly makes somebody more comfortable. But if it just goes on, where I have to keep changing more of the things I do and restricting myself more and more, that's where we have a problem. And I think that's the reason why I use the word faggoty in the first place, is because it's me making a statement about this slippery slope that can happen. And yes, I know there are false slippery slopes, so you can't just rely on the slippery slope argument, but there are true slippery slopes, and I see this one as a possibility. So I'm asserting myself and my ability to use different words in different ways. That's all. So Robin is faggoty.
Well, yeah, not to draw this out for too much longer, because I don't know, don't want to beat a dead horse necessarily, but like, yeah, I mean, I would say that the chief thing that I would reiterate is that I don't like the fact that people use it just as a blanket thing for gay men. That's not right. I don't endorse that. I think that's stupid.
Well, we do have to recognize that it happens, but that's not the only way it can be used. I think that's it.
Well, yeah, I just mean that they're kind of ruining it.
They are, but at the same time, just be smarter out there, people, and remember that a word can have, a 1 in front of it in the dictionary, and then a 2 in front of it, and a 3, and so on. So,
true.
Sorry to derail you there, but
Oh no, I was just saying that's sort of my position on it. Is again, it's how it's not only the different meanings, but it's how you use it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, and yeah, that even again a lot of the things that you described, I sort of put under the heading of narcissism, just that general, like drawing attention, being a problem, etc. I don't know. It's a complex word to me because to me it implies that you're talking about somebody who isn't properly acting like a man, and that's not what it means to me. It just means like somebody who's being an asshole, and that's a very generalized thing to say, but
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like Louis C.K. said, he didn't say this, but I'm gonna give him credit because he was the inspiration for this thought I'm gonna say.
Mm-hmm.
Where imagine that like there are a couple of gay guys who are like married to each other, and one gay guy like wants the other guy to suck his dick, and the other guy's like, no, I don't want to. Like, one of those sort of marital spats that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not gonna do it till you buy me a pony. Yeah. And Louis C.K. Said in one of his bits, "Quit being a faggot and suck that dick."
That sort of sums it up. Yeah, I mean.
So, but I like to think that I'm amenable to, being reasonable when it comes to people's feelings, as long as your feelings aren't selfish. Like if you say, I feel offended or hurt or something. Like what if me wearing blue jeans makes you offended and hurt? Like, can you say, well, you can't make any demands on people or assertions about what makes them feel hurt? But at the same time, like, so what am I supposed to do? Stop wearing blue jeans because it hurts you somehow? Like, sorry, but that's a place where your offense that you feel is selfish and should therefore not be listened to. But I'm sensitive, when it comes to language, I guess personally. But don't be a bunch of cunts.
Well, and like I guess the last thing that I necessarily want to contribute to this is it reminds me to reference yet another comedian of Ricky Gervais. When there was some interview I remember him giving, and they were asking him about, well, doesn't it concern you if something that you say hurts someone, that they find it offensive? And he was kind of like, well, yeah, I guess, but just people have to remember that just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right.
Yeah.
People could be offended that gay people want to get married, that people of different races want to get married, that people of different, dramatically different ages want to get married.
Mm-hmm.
Or it doesn't have to just revolve around marriage. Apparently, that's just where my brain went on this one. You can think of a litany of things, but just because it offends you, that it somehow shakes the core of what you think of as your value system, it doesn't mean you're right. That doesn't mean it's going to be socially acceptable or that we should accommodate your douchebag views.
Right. The thing is, let's do what I like to do a lot. This is where the lab part comes in. Let's approach this scientifically. So what we need to do is to have some sort of way in place, some sort of method of being able to tell the difference between when somebody is offended because an offensive thing has taken place, or they're offended because they have some sort of character flaw, like being too paranoid or just being a douchebag. You can see plenty of examples in the world of people being offended when no offense is in the environment around them. And those people seem to be the worst at like running their mouths and accusing people of all sorts of shit. And whereas the truly offended people, in my personal experience, and I know personal experience doesn't go very far in science, like those people that actually have real things happen to them, they seem to handle them. I don't know why that is, and maybe it's just because it's a small sample I've seen and it's different in the real world, but I just can't stand those people that are offended by everything that's not offensive, and then they make a big stink about it, and they just sort of they're just the fun ruiners out there. They screw up everything. They throw a wrench into everything, and nothing can ever get done. And all this divisiveness happens. So...
Yeah, I mean,
Quit being a bunch of faggots.
the way in which I encounter this has never been in anything serious of, like, misogyny or racism or homophobia or something a little bit more, I don't know. It seems somehow larger than what I'm going to talk about. But not even to go that at length about it. It's just, it's like when you have somebody that you know suggest, like, some sort of natural medicine thing to you, or a diet fad or an exercise fad to you, and you say, no, I'm not going to do that because it's stupid. And, I guess if they get offended because it's stupid, I can at least understand why that happens, even though I still think it's stupid. But I can at least, take a step back and go, okay, but you're telling me something that just, like, doesn't stand up to scrutiny. And then they're offended that I've told them that this thing they really care about is wrong or just not true. And it just always takes me back to that place where I think that when you have something that you're into and you make it part of your identity, you're going to defend it in an irrational way because it's hitting you emotionally. Once it's part of who you are and it's not just an idea you have or a thing that you do, and it is part of your constitution psychologically, then of course you're going to get offended and you're always going to go to an emotional place.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things actually I've tried to cultivate in the past several years is looking at the ideas that I have and the things that I do as more of, again, things that I do, not things that I am.
Right. People sort of get married to the things in their lives to the point where they become psychologically invested.
Right.
And they feel the need to defend. Oh, we could just pick something out of the ether, for example. I pick on organized religion all the time. I also use the flat earthers way too much. Why don't we say the people that are into, say, acupuncture this week?
Okay.
About that.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that's a bunch of horse shit. And if you say, I don't believe acupuncture does what it says it can do, or whatever other mild criticism, exactly what you said, the people will become personally offended because in their mind it's, oh, he doesn't believe something I said. Why doesn't he believe something I said? Does he think I'm not smart enough? Does he think I'm a liar?
Mm-hmm.
All these things start to happen, and then it becomes sort of an us versus them mentality of one of us has to be wrong, and if he's wrong, he's an asshole.
Right. Or he's just an asshole for pointing out that the thing that I'm into might be hocus pocus.
Yeah, and also I'm really smart and really great, and anything I think must be great because I'm great. So that mentality that comes up a lot more than I realized.
Oh yeah, this came up this weekend because my wife and I were watching a lot of those stupid, I guess they're on TLC, which I think is fucking hilarious, that a TV channel that calls itself the Learning Channel has hoarders and toddlers and tiaras. I guess that's learning in the most broad sense of the word. But
it's learning about what not to do.
Right, yeah, it's confusing. But there's another, I don't know if it's new or they were just advertising for a new season of this show, but it's called Long Island Medium.
I've heard of it, yeah.
And it's, of course, doing the whole medium gimmick again. And I was like, are you, Jesus H. Christ, are you fucking kidding me? They're doing mediums again? And, Emily was just funny because she was like, oh, I would love for, to try to, like, Trojan horse the show and, fake out the medium. And I was like, it doesn't matter. No matter how many times you do that, people are going to be really attached to, not everybody. Some people will go, oh, yeah, she's a fake or whatever. But a lot of people, I think we were talking about this, not in the show, but just another time, that people get upset when mediums get debunked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes they don't even have a real reason for it. It's just a visceral reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really reason with somebody at that point. This is one of the causes of my saying fuck it about a lot of things, as I mentioned in another show.
Your Weltschmerz.
Gesundheit. I'm not apathetic, but I'm definitely not like a real hardcore activist in things that I used to be. And it's because of this human nature of running up against a brick wall. It's I don't really know what to do, and I still admire my friends who are real activists in bullshitty things.
Yeah.
And maybe this show is just my way of going about it, although it's far more casual and fun.
Well, there's something to be said for that.
And the stuff over in the old lab over there, down the hall and to the left and 3 doors over on the right. I just can't stand year after year. I put years into this stuff of looking into the dirty tricks and the bullshit and all the. I mean, I love the con game. I mean, I know a lot about the con game. I'm fascinated by it. And at one time, I tried to argue with people who are being conned or doing some kind of conning. It's usually people being conned, and they defend it like tooth and nail. And
yeah.
I just got so tired. I don't know. I had to take a break, and that attitude, I don't know how to change it. That rationalizing anything you think, and that's that arrogance of I'm great. And I think things A, B, and C. And if anybody criticizes A, B, or C, they're a jerk because only things that I think would only be great because I'm great. And I'm smart. And I wouldn't think non-smart things. So I shouldn't be criticized ever for anything. And if I am, I'm automatically going to come up with a way to explain why I'm right, rather than think about the possibility that maybe I made a mistake. So that's where the old fuck it came in, and
right.
I still sort of I will say something once in a while, but like yesterday a couple of Jehovah's Witnesses came to my house and asked me like if I wanted to talk about being a Jehovah's Witness, and I didn't reason with them or anything. I just told them that I thought the stuff they think is made up nonsense, and that I'm sure they believe it, but I don't because I trust evidence, and I bid them a good day. And that was it. There was no, well, why do you think this? There was no long list of questions. The old me probably would have like asked them a bunch of questions, tried to get them to think, but doing that over the years, the result is the same almost every time. Occasionally you can reason with somebody, but it's I'm a Jehovah's Witness. Oh, well, I think your stuff is made up nonsense. Why are you a Jehovah's Witness? Well, because of this, this, and this. Well, did you know that this, and this are unjustified positions? Do you now change your mind? No. That's how it goes. So
see, again, you got to appeal to the emotions on this one, because there was a Jehovah's Witness kid in our street growing up, and we just constantly barraged him with taunting because he didn't get birthday presents or Christmas presents.
Oh.
And I wonder if it would be hilarious if it made him not be a Jehovah's Witness when he was growing up, because he was like, this is horseshit. I don't get birthday presents. Like, that's part of our culture, is that we do these things. And my parents chose this fucked up, retarded religion. God damn it.
Appealing to his greed rather than his reason.
Or just his, I don't know, like they couldn't even put up like a Christmas tree. Just his sense of fun. Like,
yeah.
I know
but
just appealing to that, it sucks that works. Advertising figured out that worked about 50, 60-ish years ago. Mm-hmm. Is that shortcutting the rational? Like, you never advertise a car by saying, at the end of the commercial you might tack on like its gas consumption. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But that's not how you start. You don't say, it's well made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, any of the things that you could think of when you consider buying a car. It's more so like, is it going fast? Is it in a beautiful setting? Does it look like the driver's getting roadhead? Like, then you want to buy the car.